Greetings, my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. This is LL3's News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy England, South Florida. And today's date, Sunday, August 26, 2018. So let us begin. Woo! Hopefully everyone's doing okay. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm just at the New River hanging out. Early Sunday morning to be exact. And just found out earlier today that Senator John McCain has passed. The mainstream news calls him a hero, a maverick, and all that. Praising him like he's such the best thing since sliced bread. Just to be very frank, I don't hate the man personally. I never met him, nor wish anything ill. However, when he came as a senator or politician, I was not fond of his attributes. So we're going to actually be talking about that, and especially with being a warmonger. That's the one thing that really is a pet peeve for me. Very imperialistic indeed. So I'm going to be reading, narrating a couple things from him to be only about John McCain. So let's just start off right here. This one came from the Federalist. Came out yesterday. And it's entitled John McCain, Senator, Patriot, Hero. Written by David Marcus. As the next funny one says here, John McCain represents a high standard, a standard that should be our goal, and we should thank him for setting it. In the history of the United States, the Vietnam War cast a cold shadow. Some call it America's first lost war. Historians and pundits roundly regarded it as a horrible mistake, and its execution met by those protesting it divided the nation in crippling ways. But eventually, in our popular culture, the men who fought this war became a new kind of hero. Rambo and Magnum P.I. were archetypes of the Vietnam vets who came back better, stronger, though wounded men, and became heroes. But those are just stories. In real life, we had John McCain. From all of his accomplishments, both professional and personal, John McCain will always be remembered as a first and foremost as the hotshot Annapolis graduate pilot who became a prisoner of war in 1967. For 5.5 years, he was in prison and brutally tortured by a communist enemy that has raised the black flag against freedom. McCain has been the double legacy at the United States Naval Academy, his father and grandfather having also haunted his hallowed grounds. Privilege and pressure must have both weighed on him. He graduated low in his class, which, as it turns out, isn't terribly predictive, as he lives to his graduate in the bottom of his West Point class before defeating Robert E. Lee, who graduated a second in his. Almost a decade after his graduation in 1958, McCain's medal would be tested and found not wanting. Owning to his privilege of being the son of an admiral, John McCain was offered release from the hell the Viet Cong had unleashed upon him in his prison. Somehow he refused, insisting he would not leave without the American soldiers he served alongside. To make such a choice in real life when tomorrow you will be tortured again is the kind of act that throughout human history is rightly lauded in as most exemplary. We shuddered to imagine it, knowing somebody actually did it, that some mere hero bore that cross. And that's the hope and aspiration that John McCain gifted his nation. That would have been enough for anybody, but not for John McCain. After leaving the Navy, McCain opted to run for Congress in 1982 as a pro-Reagan conservative. 5 years later, he was also elected to the Senate. In his nearly 40 years in Congress, McCain embodied Reagan's vision of an America which limited government and unlimited military power. but also Reagan's love of compromise and desire to overcome political differences. As a senator, McCain voted to confirm both Stephen Breyer and Ruth Bader Ginsburg to the Supreme Court because he believed that President Clinton had nominated qualified jurists, if not one he agrees with. He also worked across the aisle with Senator Russ Feingold, Democrat from Wisconsin, to create a campaign finance laws that would eventually fall under the Citizens United decision. In 2000, McCain threw his hat in the ring to become president. He lost the Republican primary to the eventual president elected that year, George W. Bush. It was a complicated primary, but McCain's maverick message lost out of W's compassionate conservatism. McCain landed a second-place finish. It would not be his last. Leading up to the 2008 presidential election, two things seemed clear. Hillary Clinton would be the Democratic nominee, and no Republican on the face of the earth had been the remotest chance of winning. At least early on, with disapproval of George W. Bush and the GOP at all-time highs, it looked like any GOP candidate was on a suicide mission. John McCain was ready for service. As it turned out, Clinton lost. She lost to a gifted politician who was not only young, but eloquent, but also poised to be the first black president of the United States. John McCain wasn't just running against Barack Obama. He was running against a color barrier. He was running against the 21st century Jackie Robinson. In a moment that captured everything that matters about America, John McCain responded to a woman's question at a town hall meeting during that election. The woman said she didn't trust Obama, that he was an Arab. John McCain took the microphone and said, "No, ma'am. No, ma'am. He's a decent family man and citizen that I just happen to have disagreements with on fundamental issues." While some people were spreading baseless conspiracy theories about Barack Obama, conspiracy theories that could help John McCain's effort to become president, McCain stood tall and said no, he would not be elected president on the back of a campaign based on bigotry and division. That wasn't the country he wanted to lead. So instead, he led by example and lost. John McCain lost a lot. He lost both his runs for the presidency. He lost both his runs for the presidency, He lost 5 years of his life in a Viet Cong prison camp. He eventually lost his life to cancer, but John McCain lost magnificently. We all must lose eventually, but to do so with the spirit and smile and courage of John McCain is a blessing. History remembers greatness and sacrifice. Those who prefer acolytes over accomplishment and principle find their memory mocked, if not buried. John McCain wasn't afraid to lose, and because of that, he often won. He won respect, he won elections, he won the hearts and minds of people. He won a family that adores him, and he won the respect of a nation that mourns his passing. Human beings invent heroes because we need them. They feed our too often suppressed desire to be better than we think we can be. The example of John McCain should give us solace, because he showed us that it is possible. Now and then there is a man against whom we can measure ourselves. John McCain represents a high standard, a standard that should be our goal, and we should thank him for setting it. Rest in peace. Well, to be very frank and in good faith, I never observed John McCain as a maverick. And I know I'm not the only one. One person made a comment here: I commend his service in uniform, but his service wearing a suit haunting the halls of Congress for 40 years? Nah, he was too often the fly in the conservative ornament, the wrench in Republican machinery. It isn't piquant how the same folks who trashed him during the 2008 campaign as an evil, mercurial racist, sexist, warmongering asshole are riding geographies about him now. And there's a solid point there. Some people may agree. Like, of course, Patriot and Hero, eh? Sorry, but this one combat veteran of the same war that can't agree. Think about it, folks. Do you really believe that anyone enjoyed the hospitality of the North Vietnamese POW system for 5 years, got his brains beat out every day, and actually returned home to his country right in the head? Really now? John McCain wasn't a maverick. He was just crazier than died. She was just Flattermas. The country would have been better off if John had become the town drunk. One person says here, he was an honorable man decades ago. He lost what was left of it with the Steele dossier lie. And don't forget his Obamacare vote. And sided with illegals over the safety of this great country. So you're going to have a lot of mixed views on this. And I don't really blame these individuals. It is a shame, like I said, if he was tortured, gotten beat on. But there's other claims that he didn't. I can't make any judgment calls. But I do recall he did, someone actually had a recording of him talking about the Viet Cong that took care of him and all that. So, I'll see if I can find it. If not, just look that up. It's very, some people may call it real disturbing. But one thing I have to say about David Marcus, I'm not here to crucify him or anything like that. However, when it comes to him as a senator, I am not fond of his actions on his votes. And he was a warmonger, too, an imperialist. In addition, a member of the Council of Foreign Relations. Okay, a global entity. You folks can look it up. Don't be CFR.org. Just look up his name. See if it's in here. Hold on, I'm gonna find it right now. But he did. So who's he actually serving? The masters of his constituents in Arizona, or to the One World Order entity? Those are one of the areas I question him on. And that's why I get very disappointed in a person like him in those areas. I'm trying to find out if it's in here or not. Looking for CFR membership. Hopefully I find it. But Coffee Annan was in there too. He was related to the Rothschilds too. So let me see. Where is that membership list? But you know what? I'm gonna find it and I'm right back out when I find this. Stay tuned. Yes, I know he wasn't a member of the Council of Foreign Relations in 2018. However, 2017, yes. So he's been a member since then, like his last time on the roster list, and that's when he had probably diagnosed with the whole brain tumor and all that. So, John McCain III, if I'm correct. Let me just look at that one more time. Yep. John S. McCain III. So it's on there. It'll be page 12 of 24. So I'm gonna leave that link up on a roster list for 2017. So you guys can look for it yourselves. So he is not a patriot, with all due respect, nor a maverick. When you're a member of a global entity, which is part of the One World Order, that's out the window. Plain and simple. All right. Well, so that area, like I said, that area, we'll just let that be. However, I know as Zero Hedge did a article on his warmongering, which is very disturbing, to be very frank. History of John McCain's call for wars around the world, and actually came out July 21st 2017. And so, from the geopolitics alert. We'll just read it from here. And actually, it was Washington GPA, right? Let me see. Let's check this out. Yep. Geopolitical alert. Ooh. I goofed up. Beep. One moment. Yeah, so yeah, it's going to geopoliticsalert.com. So, good site. What does this have to say here? As it reads... As it reads... Alright, as it reads here. Earlier this week, notorious war hawk U.S. Senator John McCain was diagnosed with brain cancer. While liberals and conservative establishments are sending their regards, Geopolitics Alert instead compiled a list of reasons why we don't care about McCain. The list is, of course, a history of all instances McCain has called for U.S.-led intervention around the world. There is clearly a long history here, so Geopolitics Alert has compiled the most blatant examples from Europe to Asia. We'll start with the obvious wars first. Afghanistan and Iraq. Obviously, every U.S. senator besides California's Barbara Lee voted to give President George W. Bush the power to invade Afghanistan and following events of September 11th. However, McCain wasn't happy with just moving to invade Afghanistan. No, he had other targets on his mind as early as the day after the towers fell. Despite McCain's claim in 2014 that the Iraq War probably wouldn't have happened if he had won the 2000 Republican primary and the general election, this assertion seems ridiculous. On September 12, 2001, McCain appeared on MSNBC presenting an extensive list of countries he felt were providing a safe harbor to groups like Al-Qaeda. This list, of course, included Iraq and several other nations that appeared later on this list. Syria, another country on the 2001 list, of course, was another country on the 2001 list, of course, was Syria. Now, the Bush regime may have never gotten the chance to continue the toppling Middle East countries thanks to the failure in Iraq and the exposure of that war being sold on lies, but McCain seemingly never lost sight of his hatred for Bashar al-Assad. Shortly after the Arab Spring broke out in Syria, McCain and his constant partners in war crimes, Senator Lindsey Graham, quickly found communication channels with the Syrian opposition just a few short months after the U.S. endorsed protests in Syria, even having... Hold on here. Trying to get something else. There. Sorry about that. Having their ambassador attended, McCain and Graham began calling for arms to start the flowing of the Free Syrian Army and other rebel groups. Libya. McCain's plan for Syria never quite worked the way he wanted, but he probably should have known that he would never yield a positive result. If McCain didn't want to look at Iraq to prove that point, he had another more recent example of how he could have used the NATO intervention in Libya. It was less than a year before McCain wanted to arm Syrian Takfirists that he had supported with the bombing and no-fly zones in Libya. McCain even wanted tougher actions against the country, which has now become an anarchic Wild West that's home to all sorts of horrors, from the Islamic State to a new slave trade. Okay, so that's one area. Let's see. I'm going to continue on here. West and Central Africa. McCain is also a champion of the war on terror in other parts of Africa. While McCain hasn't directly supported terrorists in some countries in Africa, he still has called for more U.S. interventions across the continent. The list includes dealing with Islamic insurgencies, such as Mali. McCain has called for the plans like deploying special forces to rescue girls kidnapped by Boko Haram in Nigeria and intervention in Sudan, where McCain and his wife have invested money for some time. Iran, another country on the list of hated nations initially put forth by Bush Undersecretary of Defense Paul Wolfowitz, and also another longtime target of McCain is, of course, Iran. Although McCain has always said he prays there will never be a war with Iran, the man incessantly calls for it and even jokes about bombing the country when he feels the mood is right. The truth of the matter is McCain's positions towards Iran also are so hostile that even flagship neoconservative institutions like the Cato Institute think he's too hawkish. Interesting there, right? Bosnia and Kosovo, but McCain isn't satisfied with just backing Salafi jihadists in the traditional Middle East and North African theaters. He also backed violent radicals across the fringes of Europe. This trend actually started in the mid-1990s when McCain was a vocal supporter of then-President Bill Clinton's war in Bosnia. Many Muslims traveling to Bosnia joining the Mujahideen there have since joined groups like IS in recent years, and IS flags can occasionally be seen in the Sunni areas of Bosnia. Now McCain was still backing potential Takfiri movements, recently accusing Russia of interfering in local affairs and calling for more U.S. intervention in the country. McCain made similar decisions when he advocated U.S. intervention in Kosovo in the late 90s. In the Kosovo conflict, McCain backed the Kosovo Liberation Army, a genocidal jihadist organization with ties to Al-Qaeda under Osama bin Laden. Ukraine. Don't be fooled into thinking that McCain only supports jihadists in Eastern Europe. He also backs the overt Nazis acting as death squads for Kyiv in the ongoing Ukrainian conflict. Yeah. It looks like McCain and Zbigniew Brzezinski are holding hands together, doing kumbaya. Hey, we can fill that one area for the grand chessboard he wrote. That's Zbigniew Brzezinski. You should read that book. This, of course, started in 2014, but McCain has continued to pledge support for Kyiv's crimes in the Donbass region to this day. Is all par for the course in McCain's larger theme of challenging Russia. He believes controls the separatists in eastern Ukraine. So it's interesting there, right? In Russia, the story of McCain's hatred of Russia spanned back to the Cold War. We won't get into McCain's fear of communism that evolves into just general Russophobia, but we will say he didn't have many excuses to focus on making threats towards Moscow for a good 15 to 20 year stretch. This changed in 2008 with the war in South Ossetia between Georgia and Russia. During this conflict, McCain was the loudest voice, saying that the U.S. should immediately call a meeting of the North Atlantic Council to assess Georgia's security and review measures NATO can take to contribute to stabilizing this very dangerous situation. The same situation repeated in Ukraine in 2014, but McCain's worst comments came this year. As soon as the U.S. intelligence community accused Russia of interference in the 2016 U.S. elections without any evidence, McCain was first to say the event was an act of war. North Korea. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or DRPK, was also an early target of McCain's making his September 12th wish list. More recently, though, he restyled a Trump opponent. McCain was all in on the new regime saber rattling, calling on Trump to strike a nuclear-armed country. And here, too, on China. China's the kind of its own class with McCain, who's made strange vague threats towards the country in the past, such as the Arab Spring is coming to China. Whatever that means, China may be the target on the periphery for McCain, but he does still encourage antagonizing country to this day, calling for things like more freedom of navigation drills and other naval exercises in the South China Sea. So in summation, next time someone asks why you don't care about John McCain's clock running out, show them this article. McCain has encouraged the spread of death worldwide. The day he leaves Congress will be a victory for the human race. Ooh, yeah, that's interesting. So it's this day of the human race. But remember, they want to say one tyrant falls, someone will rise, right? Well, I say this. How is John McCain the hero, a maverick? Explain that. In those areas. That's why I never praised this man by any means. Never fell for his rhetoric. And even his track record as a senator. Here's some in here what he did on his voting record. This is by the New American, his Freedom Index. As a senator, he had a 62% freedom score. And during that time, on the breakdown, the highest he made was 92% during the 111th Congress of 2009 and 2010. That's interesting. I like to find that'd be interesting. So, however, when it came to 2017, 2018, the 115th Congress, it went down to 35%. I know many of the stuff he didn't vote on was due to his health. But we just hit a few areas here. Some I disagree, others I agree with them, believe it or not. So let's see what it has here. Like from October 24, 2017, House Amendment to the Senate Bill H.R. 2266, disaster relief. He voted yes. And, of course, they said they disagree because it goes under FEMA. That this whole budget or bill, $18.7 billion for the Federal Emergency Management Agency's Disaster Relief Fund, and will cancel $16 billion of the Treasury debt incurred by FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program. So I was going to go on here. Same thing with the budget cut. And he voted no. And of course, here it was the resolution, House Current Resolution 71, which Rand Paul authored on the cut $43 billion, but McCain voted no. So while $43 billion is the budget in small comparison to $1 trillion plus budget in recent years, is a symbolic act that should be applauded. And of course, he more government health care. He voted nay, and that's good. That was a Bernie Sanders bill, by the way. So it's okay for more government health care, and he voted no. Okay, so you got to commend him for that. So, of course, right down here, he didn't vote. War authorization. He voted yes. Senator Rand Paul, during consideration of the NDAA, H.R. 2810, Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky offered an amendment to repeal 6 months as a bill's enactment, the 2001 authorization for the use of military force. Enacted in the wake of 9/11, the AUMF authorized the president to use military force against terrorists involved, including those who aided and harbored them, and use the authority for U.S. military entry into Afghanistan. Paul's amendment would have ended 6 months after the bill's enactment. So he was right. So I got to give Rand Paul credit for that. And, of course, sanctions on Russia, Iran, and North Korea. H.R. 3364, which was voted on July 27, 2017. He voted yes. It's a bad vote. And so the whole thing is, hey, he tried to put Russia involved. And you know what? all it is, sanctions are an act of war. Period. Of course, he was against the repeal of Obamacare, H.R. 1628, and of course, John Kenneth Bush nomination. He didn't vote on that, but he voted for Senate Bill 722, Countering Iran's Disabling Activities Act. He voted aye. It was a bad vote because, like I said before, act of war. So there's some stuff you can agree with, others I can disagree. And of course, he was against blocking U.S. arms sales to Saudi Arabia. Okay, so that was on June 13, 2017. He voted against it with Senate Joint Resolution 42, which Senator Rand Paul introduced. So he said, "Screw you, Senator Paul." Omnibus appropriations, H.R. 2244. Of course, he voted for it. And he did support federal family planning, which is House Joint Resolution 43. So he did vote on that. Will disapprove Notify Health and Human Services Department, including Planned Parenthood. So he voted yes on that. And of course, the ratification treaty, Doc 114-12, Montenegro NATO membership. He voted yes. Bad bill. NATO is part of the empire. So you could say John McCain's pro-imperialism. And he did do a couple more here. Oh, wait a minute. Predator control. He had his House Choice resolution would disapprove of nullify U.S. Department of Interior rule non-substance take on wildlife. Okay, so he voted yes on that. Foreign purchases, House Joint Resolution 40 would disapprove nullify the Social Security Administration rule that outlines reporting information by an agency on certain non-eligible individuals who receive disability insurance, supplemental securities, income benefits for their inclusion of the National Instant Criminal Background Check System for gun purchases. So he voted yes to disapprove it, so that's a good vote. And of course, the stream protection rule, vote same thing. So those areas I can commend him for. Balancing the budget he was against, which was Senate Concurrent Resolution 3, January 9th, 2017, Rand Paul, once again. And he did so I'm going to leave this up here. I'm going to add this to the link so you can look at that as well. You can make your own judgment. But like I said, I was never fond of a lot of his actions. And it's like every other politician out there too. If he does right, I will agree with them. If he does wrong, I'm going to criticize him. Government is never your friend. Government is an enemy of liberty. And a lot of what John McCain did, he was not really liberty loving or freedom endorsing. Those are one of the areas I have a lot of issues with on this man. And this is why I let everyone know it's nothing against him personally, but I condemned his actions in that elected position. That is it. That's why I am not I'm not gonna go around and have a ticker tape parade for the man and go, John McCain was the greatest patriot ever. That's why I disagree with the one gentleman's article on this, Mr. Marcus from the Federalist. I disagree with him, and that's how I see it. Nothing personal, but rather principle. And I always say this: Ron Paul's a maverick, never John McCain. And that is it. I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share us on your social media networks. If you have any questions, comments, or if you say something that's interesting, you may want to check out. Whatever you do, please address your correspondence with decorum. I will leave all the social media sites on my Spreaker page. You can check it out. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com, or if you encrypted ones, especially with a ProtonMail account, LokiLuck3@protonmail.com. All right, my friends, Once again, thank you for your time. Plus, always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep on spreading love, and may your guardian spirits be with you.